If peeing in your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis, Billy Madison. Second quote for you. Second quote. Measure of a life is in service to others. My guest in this episode of Passing the Torch is an Army veteran, West Point graduate, and former Army football fullback with 20 plus years leading soldiers in combat, earning 2 Bronze Stars. A pioneer in military mental fitness, he helped launch resilience programs and later coached Major League Baseball and NFL teams, including the best team in the NFL, the Chicago Bears.
Bear down. Let's go, baby.
With advanced training in sport and performance psychology, he now works with leaders across businesses, healthcare, and athletics. He is a best-selling co-author, adjunct professor, and founder of Design to Perform, known for blending behavioral science, leadership experience, and practical tools to help people perform under pressure. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome TEDx and keynote speaker, MLB and NFL mental performance coach, host of the Skull Sessions podcast, mental fitness advocate, the person who is Reece-silient, and the team you, John McCaskill. Passing the Torch with Andy Reece starts now. First and foremost, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining me.
Hey, Martin, thanks for having me, brother. It's great getting to know you, man. So much intersection in our lives.
I know.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
What was your favorite part? The team you, John McCaskill, or when I said Reece-silient? And I'll get to the Reece. I got some stuff on you, but
they're both bangers, man. I love all that too, man. You did your homework.
One question I like to open up every podcast with is, why is life great right now?
Man, life's great right now because I'm starting to get a lot of clarity in terms of like where I want to go next, right? You and I were talking about it, and sometimes we're unclear about where we're at right now, but as long as you kind of know where you're going and you're willing to figure it out and fail and learn, that's what's the most important thing. Yesterday was a fantastic day. I just got a chance to speak to the first annual Texas Criminal Justice Conference to a bunch of legal professionals from all over the state of Texas at the college where I teach, as you mentioned. And it was the first time me speaking to a group of lawyers, let alone people who are service oriented, who are different levels. And we're talking some high level officials. I was in a courtroom. I was like kind of intimidated a little bit, but it was a great discussion. And then I got a chance to go take my son to dinner, and we went to an El Salvadorian restaurant in Huntsville, Texas. I'd never had any food from El Salvador. It was amazing. So yeah, the last 12 hours was just a really good day, man. Getting a chance to really just check a lot of boxes. I'm thriving right now on the mental fitness scale. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, of course. And I'm a huge fan of your work. I've been following your content on LinkedIn, and you're right. It seems like we kept crossing paths and when social media and stuff. And your content's really good, especially some of the articles and stuff you've written. I do want to talk about that stuff in a second, but I kind of want to, and I've listened to you on a ton of podcasts, but something I haven't heard you talk about, but I was very interested to learn about is with your wife being a special education teacher, has there been a moment from your wife's work, something she's experienced with a student that helped change how you think about mental strength or what it actually means to show up for someone?
Holy cow. First of all, that's a fantastic question. Thank you for asking that, because my wife is just an amazing human being, and shout out to all the military spouses out there and military children. This is the month of the military child. And someone just sacrificed so much, and not only to put up with me for 20 years, but do it during war and raise our 4 kids, was an architect. Then 20 years later reinvents herself to go back to go do one of the hardest jobs, which is not only work with middle school teachers, which is arguably the worst time in the child development.
My daughter's in middle school.
Yeah, I hated going through it, let alone being able to deal with those kids, let alone kids who have special needs, behavioral issues, the whole gamut of needs and accommodations. Yeah, my wife is on the front lines every day, doing some really important work, working with kids. She's just an incredible advocate, first of all. So just a passion for helping people, serving people, being an educator in a time when, there's not a lot of love for educators. I mean, we all know the plight of the teacher, but especially now, just the lack of resources, the burnout, stress rate. She's had 5 teachers quit this year. The burden has been back on her.
Wow.
And just dealing with some of the challenges kids go through with the kids who don't have parents in their lives, who have special needs, and then just showing up for them every single day. And then even when you have a hard day because of something to deal with resources or leadership or lack thereof. And then just to be able to go back and do that every day is incredible. It's informed my work because obviously she's an expert now in accommodations. And for anybody who teaches or coaches, you want to meet your client or the person you're serving where they're at and get them where they need to go. And so to understand people who are neurodivergent and who have some special needs like dyslexia and dysgraphia, obviously there's a famous example of a quarterback that plays for a particular team in Chicago that is well known for that. But just that's a great example of when I have an athlete, a leader, or somebody who needs accommodations, and I'm coaching them or I'm working with them. Her expertise really informs me on how to better, teach, coach, and mentor my clients. But she just inspires me every day because she's working a heck of a lot harder than I am.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And she does it with a smile on her face while my kids are in school. And that's just an amazing, she's an amazing human being, and just hats off to all the teachers, especially special ed teachers in the fight.
Thanks for that answer. That's great, man. And yeah, shout out to the military spouses and a month of military child. I actually just released an episode a few weeks ago with my daughter in honor of the military child. But
Yeah.
man, I'm so interested. You talked about just use the term neurodivergent,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just so many things about the mental performance. But
Yeah.
most people spend their lives trying to win the external game, especially in the age
Right.
of social media,
Right.
while quietly losing the one inside their own head.
Right.
You've worked with elite athletes in pro baseball and obviously the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
How do you help someone separate who they are from how they perform when when their entire identity is built on winning?
Yeah, it's so important, right? Because I think it's a really the higher order thing that I love to talk about is character. And in my arena mastery model, it's like building a house. It starts with the foundation, right?
Yeah.
I talk about a lot of the pillars of mental fitness, which are the 4 C's, which we can talk about, and what does the roof look like in terms of your connection and leadership and culture. But the foundation of what that looks like if you're building a culture of excellence starts with who you are as an individual, but also as an organization. And so I really start with the identity piece, especially like working with athletes and military veterans who in transition. It's something that I'm a quiet advocate for. It's not something it's just something I'm a part of that I invest a lot of my time in because they're so similar, especially on the elite side of things. And as you know, I mean, having been a career military airman yourself, it's all we know. Like, some of the time we were 17, 18 years old. And so whenever your livelihood is wrapped up in something, it's a lifestyle. It's not a career. It's not a job. And now you're going to transition just like you did and I did. And we continue to transition, right? It's a never ending process. A lot of times people ask, hey, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Right. And they never ask, who am I? And so I think that's why I have a process to where we really look at the foundation of who you are. And that starts with your values. What's important to you? And then that drives your motivation, your internal drivers, what you value. The research shows was what motivates you internally, and what you're motivated by is what your values are. So then you understand what your belief system is, the lens in which you see yourself and others in different situations. Our beliefs are very fallible and malleable, right? And then it gets into the higher order things, which is like purpose. Like, hey, I call them capital Y's and lowercase y's, right?
Yeah.
And then existential wise, your purpose. You hear a lot about ikigai and things like that. That's the big capital Y's, and little Y's are like, why do I show up to this podcast to talk to Martin, right? And then that together kind of makes up your identity, which is these are the key building blocks that go into the mortar that make a strong foundation. And so for me and my work there, I spend a lot of time on that first if I have time, and I think it's incredibly important towards navigating this constant challenge, change, and adversity that we go through in transitions in our life, these inflection points.
Yeah. Do you mind just expanding about the 4 C's?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 4 pillars on top of that. So the character is the foundation of the arena mastery model. The 4 C's were based on the 4 C model of mental toughness. It's one of the most evidence-based psychological concepts that are out there. So the 4 C's are control, confidence, commitment, and challenge. And I can expand on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yes, I mean, really, it starts with confidence, and I see this a lot. I think there's a confidence crisis right now that's going on especially with youth athletes, parents, and coaches right now. I mean, I've got a bunch of teenagers right now. I've got 2 young adults, and I'm starting to, move away from elite populations and move into populations who don't have access to people like me, but they need it. There's a demand for it earlier in their lives and careers. So, for example, teenage athletes, coaches, and parents are one of them, and I'm just noticing a lot of issues in terms of confidence, which is a inner belief in yourself and your abilities, right? And so that starts with self-efficacy. That starts with self-confidence. So how do you talk to yourself? How do you see what happens to you? How do you see yourself? How do you see others? How do you filter out when you make mistakes or not, and still develop confidence regardless of that? And then beyond self, what does that look like in terms of your relationship building trust? Trust and confidence are related. So what's interpersonal confidence look like? How do you build that through connections and building trust and rapport with other people, because life's a team sport. And then control gets into, hey, understanding this idea of agency, or hey, what can I control and not control? You hear a lot about stoicism as a philosophy, and mental training is really the practice that kind of goes into it. How do you take the behaviors and actions that you can take? So that's about understanding, hey, within my life, hey, what are the grip forces, the things I can grab onto? What are the gravity forces, the things I got to work with, but I can't control? Then the things that you can control are like your attention, right? Understanding how do I, not only block out distractions in a world that's full of distractions, from our phones to social media to just the demands of adulting in life, and then how do I direct my attention, to a sensory target outside of myself, inside of myself. When I get distracted, how do I get it back on track? Imagery, which is like mental rehearsal. How do you get good quality mental reps that can improve your memory, that can improve how you reflect on things, how you prepare for things. So that's control.
Yeah.
And then commitment is about stick-to-itness. And so I teach skills like goal pursuit. And then I learn about things like motivation and discipline that work together to help you develop this roadmap for success, determine where you're at, where you're going, where you're at, how do you get there, like you're navigating, and then how do you celebrate wins, how do you learn from losses, and so forth. And then challenge, it involves a couple things. One is understanding, stress and your energy systems. How do you expend energy? How do you recover it? How do you do that deliberately, intentionally? But also how you manage risk and take calculated risks, but also learn from everything. Of course, everybody's heard about the growth versus fixed mindset, but
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know is that it's not binary. We're either one way or the other, that we're all on a spectrum of growth versus fixed depending on the situation. But how do we tend to learn from everything, even when we don't get the results? And so all this together kind of creates these 4 pillars that sits on that foundation, that can really help you not only be mentally healthier and mentally more resilient to bounce back, but to perform by executing tasks and getting the job done. When you don't have your A game, you can still get and you have your C game. How do you get a C plus? That's what really the goal of mental fitness.
So, man, I love everything you just said, and I've seen you. We talked online, not just one-on-one, but with a group about a month ago. So there's a lot of things that go into, I think, the 4 C's,
Yeah.
and success overall. What micro decisions do people often overlook that eventually cracks this foundation?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's one of them is like, hey, I tend to focus on the results and not on the process. So you hear a lot about, and their identity, first of all, their identity and their confidence is tied to things that they don't control. So you can see, hey, so 1 is my identity, my character, cracking my character. 2, cracking my confidence. 3, focus on things I can't control. So that's a great example of how all those factors that I just described all happen, right? So it's not just, it's easy to say trust the process. So what do I actually control in terms of that too? Well, one is like my best friend of me, John McCaskill, likes to say about mindfulness and present moment focus, and understand that I can only control how I think and how I respond to that situation. Mental fitness is all about your ability to control how you think and respond under stress and pressure. Wherever you're at on that mental fitness bridge, that's really what it's about. So what I choose to think about matters, but more importantly, what I choose to do about it is how do I respond to that? I think is equally important.
I was actually going to save this question for later, but I have to ask it now because
Yeah.
I'm actually getting goosebumps. So we talked about some of my past guests, and again, thank you so much for the compliments on that. Kurt Warner, my second favorite quarterback of all
Yeah,
time.
great story.
Uncle Rico's number one. He's the GOAT. But
Funny thing is, I
uh,
could throw this football over those mountains.
yeah, Kurt Warner doesn't have the arm strength or the accuracy of Uncle Rico. Kellen Mond was just on my
Yeah,
podcast a couple months ago as well,
yeah,
and he's got a very interesting story.
yeah.
But I was going to save this question for later, and I'm trying to get one other quarterback on who I'll mention here in a second. If you had to be the personal mental coach separately for Kurt Warner, Kellen Mond, and Ryan Leaf, how would you approach them differently?
Oof, man. So Kellen Mond, Ryan Leaf, and Kurt Warner. Yeah. Wow.
And let's just say whether, and I'll let you pick at whatever in Kurt Warner's career, whether when he was the undrafted arena football guy, or whatever,
Yeah.
or after the first Super Bowl for Kellen Mond,
Right.
specifically when he was a rookie.
Yeah.
And then for Ryan Leaf, actually, I'm gonna go back to, we'll say right after the NFL draft. So we'll say April, May of 1998.
Yeah. So right after the draft. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think the first thing that came to mind was like as I think about, this kind of goes back to the Outlier Project conversation, which I had about, hey, do you burn the boats? Do you bail on the boats, or do you build the boats? So in other words, when do I grit? When do I keep going with passion, perseverance? When do I quit? I cut my losses because grit has a glass ceiling. And when do I need to pivot? Right? Because pivoting is different than quitting. And I think each of those guys had different approaches based on their status. So I think Ryan Leaf, super interesting story, and I love what he's doing now. I mean, obviously, famously, the one of the most famous busts in the draft, and so just number one quarterback. I think Super Bowl, or no, he was the Rose Bowl MVP, number one overall, if I remember right. Picked
He was
over
drafted
Peyton Manning.
by you talking about in the draft?
Yeah.
He was number 2. So, but I mean, people don't. It's easy for people in hindsight to say now, oh, it was obvious to choose Peyton Manning. No, they were neck and neck, and there was a lot of people saying that Colts should have drafted Ryan Leaf. So,
Yeah,
I mean, he was a monster coming out of college.
He was, man. I mean, he was arguably, in terms of the measurables, which we didn't really look at the intangibles back then like we do now, which I used to do with the NFL and Major League Baseball. It would have been interesting for me to be in the draft room for all of them too, especially knowing what we know now, because there probably would have been some red flags on Ryan Leaf. Because again, we put a premium on the tangibles, not the intangibles. I think in retrospect, now. But I think again, like, how do you being able to get a chance to work with Ryan Leaf and talk about humility, and then being able to really be more coachable, and to really work on your craft, and to be a good teammate, and all these things that the ego, we all have an ego, but sometimes it's where ego gets out of control. And I think that's probably what I've heard from him. He's done some stuff with my buddy Jason Van Camp, who you need to get on.
Yeah,
here.
shout out to Jason Van Camp.
Yeah, and he's with Warrior Rising and some other things, and I've heard him talk. It's great to see him, how he's come full circle with the humility, and how he looks back at his younger self when his brain wasn't. I mean, these guys are in their young 20s, and so we're quick to eviscerate them, but their brains aren't even fully cooked yet. And so, just getting a chance to coach him, and in a way to be able to not be as cocky, to be more humble, and to have that white belt mindset, I think is what I would have taught him. I think for Kurt Warner, it's really interesting because I talked to my wife hates Kurt Warner, and so because she's very practical. She looks at it, she's like, man, you had a wife and kids and you're bagging groceries. But my wife was also with me when I was in the minor league system, when I had other people who were like Kurt Warner, who we love to celebrate Kurt Warner, but there are a lot of people who continue to grit when it doesn't make sense to do so, when it's best for them and their family. And so the people that lose and sacrifice are their loved ones and their relationships. You have a less than a 1% chance of making the big leagues in the minor league system. It's a lot lower chances than the NFL even. And so there's a lot of people, and I had, 25, 26-year-olds are married, they got 2 kids, they're not making any money. And I'm working with these kids, and they've been taught to be solely laser focused on their goal of making their big league dreams come true. And they've got blinders on, and they have no plan B. So I would work with them on, what is your plan B? And then Kurt Warner will look back, his Hall of Fame career, and I wouldn't have changed anything. I don't know what his message was to you. Well, I mean, the reality is Kurt Warner got some breaks, and he had a lot of talent. But there's a lot of people who are out there who are going to watch his message, and they're going to misinterpret it. And so I would coach someone, hey, you need to have a plan B, because this could be taken away from you right away. You can have an injury that can end your career. Is it worth it sacrificing your relationship with your that's going to stay with you the rest of your life? This career is just very, very short. having a plan B doesn't necessarily mean you're distracting from your goals. It means you're broadening your portfolio and your options as well too. And then Kellen Mond, it would be really interesting as well too, because like we crossed paths when I worked at the Texas A&M Coaching Academy. Ironically, I remember being in my Class A's, and I got a chance to go and sit in on a class and be a guest speaker for the former director, Mike Thornton of the Texas A&M Coaching Academy. So he was teaching a sports management course, and just so happened to be there were some Aggie football players in there, and one of them was Kellen Mond. And I remember I have a picture with him still in class the first day that I showed up at A&M while I was still on active duty in uniform. And we stayed in touch his senior year. Obviously had a great senior year. I think they ended up number 5, 6.
Yeah.
And I think it would be interesting. And I was hoping that we maybe would do some work together. We connected, we exchanged messages. But he had a lot of sports psychology and mental health resources there that I think he took advantage of. And I don't know the posts that he took off or necessarily his journey, but necessarily, hey, trying to figure out like, what does your pivot look like, right? So what is like, hey, so I think we got grit, we got quit, we got pivot. And I think I would have different approaches with each 3 of those guys within that construct.
Thank you for that answer. I love that. And I will tell you, that's one question I was like, I got to ask. I was thinking about this, and I was like, man, it'd be so interesting. Again, because hindsight's 2020 or whatever the saying is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, now I got to reach out to Kellen. And so, I got to see how he's doing. And I love that he's an artist. I've been an artist my whole life, and it'd be cool to see how he's doing.
Yeah, please check out the episode. It's good. A lot of good stuff. So you mentioned the word grit a couple of times. Why does grit have a glass ceiling?
Again, because I think it's something that it's romanticized as, especially here in Western society, North America. I mean, we really value working hard, right? Working hard is the answer for everything. You got to outwork everybody. It's glorified as well too. And so, hey, when things get hard, you got to work harder. It's like I have a thing now where I'm kind of dispelling the tough guyism. So I love the T-shirt with the skull on it. And it says, "Nobody cares. Work harder." I'm like, really? Because somebody does care about you, and like you should work smarter. It's not about just working. So like let's shift the paradigm here as well too. But that's draining in our culture. And you think about it, we love the underdog stories. We love the Kurt Warners. We love the 1980
Olympic hockey team.
Hockey team. We love the story about Lou Zamperini. I mean, the underdog story, Seabiscuit. I mean, it's baked into our culture about hard work. It's what allowed us the greatest generation to win World War II and become this industrial superpower. But now we're in it, and I'm not getting political here, but it's things that the world's changing, right? And so working harder, especially for our kids' generation, isn't the answer, right? And so I think working smarter and and taking care of yourself so you better take care of others is at a premium. And so what our generation is expecting the younger generation to just nobody cares, work harder, suck it up, and drive on. And we just know more about the human system enough to where that's not. We got to do better, right? And we got to have to evolve. And so I think that grit is one of those concepts that I think I would love to talk to Angela Duckworth, who did the research
book, right?
Yeah, great book. And I've heard her actually talk about it. Is that I think people misinterpreted what she was talking about. So kind of like, remember the 10,000 hours rule, how that got debunked? Well, Erickson never intended it to be like that. It's 10,000 hours equals expertise. Like that was never, if you understand the research and what he was talking about, that's not actually what he meant, right? Being gritty doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, you never quit, right? Which is baked into the warrior culture as well too. It just means that, hey, when do I need to, my passion and perseverance is up to a certain point, but at one point in time, is it a detriment to myself and to the people around me, right? So I think understanding about capacity, and it's about understanding and about awareness and regulation within different contexts to be able to understand how much do I need to grit, and then when is it okay to quit, and again when do I need to be able to make a pivot and give myself some options as well too. So I think grit has a glass ceiling because it's not a binary concept. It's not black or white. It's very much situational because that's how humans operate.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think it definitely it limits choices and decision making. And I'm glad to see, like, I do think there is value in it, but it's not sustainable. And there was a time period where people were just all about grit, and it's just, sleep is for losers and stuff. Yeah. And it's like, no, man, you need more than 2 hours of sleep. And
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was baked into our culture, our warrior culture growing up, right? I mean, coming up in the military, it was like, yeah, that's how it was. And then now we have more teammates that have committed suicide than we know who've died and killed in action.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's a correlation there and whatnot as well, but like, hey, the suck it up and drive on mindset's got to evolve, and I think it's up to us to be able to shift that paradigm with how we train the next generation, like hence passing the torch to the next group of leaders, right? That hey,
Yeah.
there's a better way to develop humans.
Has there ever been a time where you personally failed to live up to the message that you teach?
All the time, all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. And I just want to make that clear. I mean, you hear my resume. I'm not my resume. I'm a human being who's trying to figure it out, just like you all out there. And I fail all the time. And I've learned more from my failures than I have from any of my successes and accolades that you heard Torch talking about too. And so, I mean, I fail every day. I mean, I make mistakes, and I say try. I've had a point where I had some kind of like a self-inflicted moral injury later in my career, and
Yeah.
it just really shook me down to my core, and that's kind of what led me to working on that. And I think when I started to compromise my values and my character, that's when I was like, man, that's where I really need to do some calibration. But it ended up being like, looking back, kind of is the best thing that ever happened to me. And so for me, making sure that I have integrity, that I'm walking the talk, I am the man in the arena, right? But being in the arena doesn't necessarily mean that you're succeeding, you're winning all the time. It means that, hey, you're getting bloodied, you're getting beaten down, you're getting bludgeoned, your hands are dirty, but every day you're willing to get up and keep going. And then you're bringing other people with you.
Yeah.
But understand that you don't live in the arena, man. You got to go home and sleep, spend time with your family. So for me, like, my values are the most important thing to me. Am I living my values, right? And I got that by studying, interestingly enough, not only kind of like virtue ethics and like Kant and things like that, but also looking at people like Benjamin Franklin, who was a flawed human being. We know that, right? I mean,
Yeah. Dope.
Hellfire Club. I mean, he was like the pimp of all pimps, but
He
obviously,
was
like,
the most electrifying man in the world at that
yeah,
one
literally,
point. So,
I mean, because didn't he, electricity, yeah, great, nice play on words. I see what
thanks,
you're doing,
man.
man. Yeah, so he's, he was, what a Renaissance man too, but he's also like, hey, like, a lot of infidelity, a lot of cheating on his wife, but a lot of human being, just like Teddy Roosevelt was. Like, but hey, this guy was a gangster, man, and like every day he reflected on his values, right, his virtues, and he had a list of them, and he said, hey, did I live them or not? Check yes or no. And I actually saw the original journal. It's actually in his museum in Philadelphia. Fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I got that practice. I adopted that practice. It's something I teach to my clients. It's something I practice daily. It's like I've got my 3 to 5 core values, and I looking at them. What did I live them? Did I live up to them or not? And what did that value look like in action? And even if I didn't accomplish my to-do list, if I knew that I was consistent with what my character was, then that's a pretty damn good day. So that's realizing, having gone through that kind of moral self-injury later in my career, maybe really question my identity and really double down on that in terms of what's really important. And just getting my priorities, my big rocks in line as well too, right? So I've got 5 big rocks right now in terms of what I'm working on. Number one is being my family, putting them first. In the military, there's a saying that I always hated, which is mission first, family always. And I
Hate that. Yeah, they said in the Air Force too. Like,
and I know what they meant, right? But
Yeah.
like, hey, your family's going to be there long after you take the uniform off, right? But the mission's always going to be there. So I kind of inverse that. So for me, having lived that and knew that the sacrifice they made, if I'm taking care of my family first, the people that are going to be with me on my deathbed, then I'm doing a good job, because me being a world-class husband and father is way more important than me being a keynote speaker, coach, or
Yeah.
a podcast host, right? And so it's understanding what really matters to you, and it takes some time to figure that out. But once you get clarity on that, it's like it just makes everything a lot easier.
So actually I released an episode today with George Hayworth. He's an Army veteran as well. And then before that with Scott Husing, he's a Marine veteran. He wrote the book Echo and Ramadi. But within those episodes, we talked about the importance of legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Husing talked about, and he's achieved a lot in his life, and he's connected. He knows all these people. But I asked him a question about legacy, and he says the most important legacy to me is the one I have with my daughter.
Yep.
And, and to your point, Andy, I retired at 23 years. There were some people in the military telling me I should try to give it like 1 or 2 more jobs, but I was like, man, I couldn't balance. I felt like I wasn't being a good husband or dad.
Right.
I personally know someone who constantly has put the Air Force ahead of his family.
Yep.
And he's now going through a divorce. And it's just like,
Yeah.
and I was just like, man, I want my kids, I want to be the starting quarterback of my household, right? The
Yeah.
MVP before
Yeah.
anything else. So
Yeah, 100%. There's a controversial take on that too. I love Admiral McCraven.
yes,
But I think he didn't do this on purpose. He's actually, it was funny. I'm a presidential leadership scholar. 60 of the best kind of mid-career leaders from all different walks of life got together, and we spent time in 4 presidential libraries over 6 months. And probably about like the 4th or 5th one in, we were at the LBJ library, and obviously Admiral McCraven was the chancellor of the A&M system, and he came in, and our guest speaker was actually supposed to be one of LBJ's daughters. She couldn't make it. COVID was still around, and he came in and he filled in, and he came in and gave a talk, and there was a lot of veterans and military spouses that were a part of that cohort, and he had a kind of a take that really got us all talking. It pissed a lot of people off, and one of them was talking about how the sacrifice. Again, he had to sacrifice a lot to be able to become, a 4-star admiral and do what he did. And I think he in retrospect, he didn't do this on purpose. Kind of implied that, hey, that if you want to be great, it requires a sacrifice that's going to cost you. It's going to cost you your family or whatever. Like, if you really want to be world class and elite, and it really caused ruffled a lot of feathers. Well, a lot of people who are like, again, Gen Xers, millennials, who kind of saw our Vietnam generation parents even worse than we were, and I've spent enough time in our career saying, no, it is possible to have balance or work-life balance or integration. And hey, you're willing to sacrifice, but that's the most important thing to you. I think what he was saying is that if you have to, but if you really want to be world class, it's going to take a level of sacrifice that some people aren't willing to make. And so do you really need to be world class if it's going to cost that sacrifice? And for me, I knew if I wanted to be in 06 or 09 or 06 or 07, which I never wanted to be that was going to take a level of sacrifice that I wasn't willing to make. Right. So that was a choice that I made. I knew that if I wanted to be a full-time with one of these teams, which I lived that life with the Reds, to be full-time with the Bears, be full-time with Major League Baseball, that's a sacrifice that I'm not willing to make. But I had to reframe this idea that, well, does that make me any less than the people who do that? And that's not necessarily the case. So it's all a cost benefit analysis in terms of what you're willing to risk, what you're willing to sacrifice. And I think it's all an individual decision. Sometimes I think people make those decisions, and the brain likes to create shortcuts because it's easier. They're called heuristics. Sometimes we're like, oh, well, he chose the Air Force to go do this, and therefore he got divorced. So there's probably more to the story. So I like to give people grace, because there's people who I know who stayed married together for 30 plus years, and then they retire, and then they get a divorce. So they retired to spend more time together. Now they realize they've created separate lives that were independent of each other, and now they're together and they realize they're not compatible because they've grown apart. So I don't know where I was going with that, but my whole point was, I think it's just understanding what's important to you. What are you willing to sacrifice, and what are you willing to give up in order to be able to focus on what matters? And I think I'm not a work-life balance guy. I'm a work-life integration in terms of approach. I think when you're able to, for example, you and I work from home. I enjoy working from home, but I also like to get out on the road and interact with people. And so for me, if I worked from home all day, every day, and all I did is coaching, it would go crazy, right? I got to get out and get people. But I value more of the autonomy and freedom that I have to do what I want to do, more than I value being in person with someone every single day. And so that's the lifestyle that I chose. So I'm willing to give up interacting with people all day, every day, in order to be able to have the autonomy and freedom to do what I want to do.
Oh, that's awesome. I have one last mental fitness question, and then I want to get into some fun miscellaneous random questions. But just in one word, one specific reason, why do most people mentally collapse when they step into the arena?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure is a funny thing, right? Stress and pressure is a funny thing. And we all have our relationship with stress and pressure when we step into that arena. Everything that we've done up until that point, in terms of our nervous system, in terms of our training and preparation, has led to that moment. And we tend to look at, especially we're watching TV, you're watching Michael Phelps in the Olympics and winning his 7th Olympic, and you're like, you don't know. I love seeing the journey of everything that led up to that moment in the 4 years, every 4 years before that, all the physical training, all the mental training, all the anguish, the mornings he didn't want to get up, the setbacks, all the things that led up to that too. And I think that when we train our nervous system and how we think and respond up to that moment is critically important, because if you're leaving it to chance or as a byproduct of something else, you're really just like you're going to figure it out, and all of a sudden things are going to work out in your favor. You may get lucky and make the big play and get to come have the one good game. But if you want to have 7 comeback victories like we had last year, that takes a lot in breaking an NFL record and then help turn a culture around. That means that individually, that everything that went into that in terms of your mental training, your physical training, your working on your character and your craft and building the team, all those things that are going on behind the scenes, working that human system in tandem is going to increase the likelihood that you're going to deliver when the moment matters the most, and it needs you to deliver on that moment.
Yeah.
And it may not even be making the big play. It's what about the guys who are making the block, or who the receiver is not going to him, but he still is running his route at full speed, to be able to sell that, to be able to pull the corner over to free up Cole Kmet in the end zone. It's all those little things that we tend to not look at. Because in mental fitness, there are no little things. There just isn't, because all those thoughts are a neurological, electrochemical signal where we're firing together and wiring together. So are you using that to your advantage, or is it helping you or hurting you in that situation? And it's less about the moment and more about everything that led up to that.
So the quad god, the Winter Olympics at Ilion, I don't recall his last name.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure on him, a lot of hype. But yeah, what would you have said to him if you had to, like, right after the famous skate or whatever? Like,
Right.
Yeah, what would you have said to him when he had the mishap?
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully we'll have, it just being able to process it, right? Like in the military, we have the after action review, and I have a simpler process. It's really after every performance. So first of all, you got 24 hours to mourn that loss or to be able to celebrate the win, and then you move on, right? But we don't learn from our experiences, regardless of the experience. We learn by deliberately reflecting on our experiences and taking that feedback and turning it into what's called feed forward. So what the feed forward process is, looking back, filtering it out, taking what I need that's useful, getting rid of what I don't that's not, and then moving that forward to my next plan. So in a 4-phase process that I use, it's you got plan, prepare, perform, process. So as soon as the competition's over, there's a cooling off period that happens, right? Where we're not going to debrief it. A lot of parents make this mistake, in the windshield on the drive home, we're debriefing the game or whatever. So I teach parents about, hey, let's cool off and chill out. You're only allowed to be able to ask one question, is that, did you do your best and did you have fun? And then the other 2 comments you're going to make are, I love you and, I'm proud of you, right? And then different kids are different at different levels. If they want to talk about it, then you can facilitate. You're asking questions, not making comments. So, what I would ask them is that there's 3 S's, right? Hey, and this would be like the day after, a chance, or things died down, there's a lot of noise that's going on, hey, first of all, turn your phone off. We're not gonna focus in on the haters and anything like that too. This is about you and your process, and it's about you learning. So how are we going to learn from this? Let's do our 3 S's. What do you need to start? What do you need to stop? What do you need to sustain? That's it. Hey, based on what you experienced yesterday, and we're focusing on the next event. If you were getting a do-over, what would you start doing during that process? What did you do well that you want to sustain? And then what would you stop doing as a result of that? Okay, now let's take that information and then let's filter that out. It's kind of like a coffee filter. I'm gonna, without a coffee filter, is just it takes grinds and hot water. If you were to take those without a filter and throw them in your mouth, I mean, it would burn the hell out of you. It would taste like you'd have a bunch of coffee grinds in your mouth. Well, that's what we do. But if you have a mental filtering process, you can now take that and filter it out and turn it into something that gives you energy, optimism, enthusiasm, the nectar of the gods, coffee, right? Well, that's what we're doing. Yeah. So now I got this. Now I filtered that out, and I'm like, okay, what are you going to take with you the next time that you're going to use that failure, turn it into fuel? And now you've learned from that because we've applied that filter, has enhanced the growth mindset. To now I can push that into my game plan, because now it's intelligence, which you would appreciate. It's actionable information that I could feed forward. So I use that process. It's simple and it's easy. Kids, y'all could steal it, as an actionable information. Hey, as a coach, as a leader, right? 3 S's, man. It's that simple. Let's put it through the filter and then feed it forward. And now it's part of my plan to help me prepare and to perform the next time.
Love it. Yeah, I'm very much into one of the reasons I actually started watching or just learning about you was a podcast that I follow. They had something similar to what you do, but for the Seahawks. This is like a year or two ago. And I'm like, what an interesting concept. And while I'm a Bears fan, so I was like, let me look up and see who the Bears are. And then
Yeah.
Man, I think fate just kind of has a great way of just working itself out. Or there's a book that I have where I wrote down 150 names of people I want to have on my podcast.
Yeah.
And it's a combination of military veterans, some friends and family.
Yeah.
I'm actually a big pro wrestling fan. So, you know, and athletes like who are military veterans or allies of the U.S. military community and all that. But your name is one of those people in the books. John McCaskill's name is not. So there you go.
Go. Suck it, John.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm 100% believe. I mean, I've watched sports my whole life. There's been countless times where teams collapse or players collapse in the second half or the fourth quarter. So great stuff. I want to transition to some miscellaneous questions. There's no rhyme or reason.
Sure.
What I like to do in most podcasts is I call it the name game. So I'm going to say a name. When you hear the name, just say one word or one sentence that comes to mind when you hear the name. The first one is Colonel Louis Soka.
Yeah, Colonel Louis Choka.
Choka, sorry. Yeah.
Trailblazer. Yeah, and the father of modern performance psychology in the U.S. military. So he will be missed but never forgotten.
Yeah, I saw he passed recently. So I think, and I heard you mention his name before, so I wanted to give him that
Colonel
praise.
Louis Choka. Yeah, absolutely. It's a very tough name. It's a Hungarian name too. So yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Second name is Jason Van Camp.
Brother.
He had the best things to say about you in that top call a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I mean, he told some funny Reece stories, man. I mean, I love it, man. I have so many great memories of him. He's my brother from another mother, man. Like we were very close together as Army football teammates and did a lot of fun stuff together, Mission 60 and the start of Warrior Rising and the books and everything else. He just I had 4 sisters growing up and Jason was my brother. Yeah.
That's awesome. The third name on this list, I have one more after this, but the third name is John McCaskill.
Frenemy.
So he was on episode 18 of my podcast. I got him on my podcast right before he exploded in terms of like his growth. And I met him at a leadership retreat back in April of 2021.
Yeah. He's just such a great sport, man. That's another word I would have for him too, man. Like, when you're close friends, when you just like give each other hell and it's from the most loving space. And obviously when we're both adjacent in the same space. So
yeah,
John and I met, we were both transitioning. We're both 2001 guys. We're both navigating transition and getting into the mental fitness space. And yeah, he's a really good friend and I just enjoy just giving him hell. And, but we text like almost every day. A lot of people don't know that. And that's what I laugh about on social media when I make fun of them. They're like, oh, I make some jab at him. But if you follow us, if you actually read what we're writing, we're having fun. Like that's what guys do. That's our love language, right?
That's the love language. Yeah. If you're if people, it's the same thing when I meet other service members. If they're this is how I can tell if someone's stolen valor. If someone's like in another service and they're only 100% professional and respectful to me, and I'm like, you're not really in the military or a veteran, because if you were in the Army and I told you I was Air Force, or if I was, if you were a Marine, you'd make fun of me instantly.
Like, hey, buddy's half the word, man, and chair farce and everything else, man.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I want to publicly defend you. You call, like the team John McCaskill. John McCaskill is the Wish Andy Reece, the Wish version.
Yes, I love it. Let's go. I mean, he beat me fair and square. And this, you were there at the store. I mean, I crashed my bike, which is the most Andy Reece thing ever. Is 10 days crashed my bike. But yeah, that was we pushed each other so hard, man. I've never trained so hard for something, and that was so fun. And but behind the scenes, we were supporting each other, and
that's awesome.
He killed me because his following is so massive, right? So I joke around that I'm the Temu of John McCaskill because of like his popularity, but I always tell him like, yeah, besides the maybe like I got more chops than you, man. So no, he is the most humble. He's the most humble guy, and he likes to say I'm not an expert, and I always give him like, if you're not a freaking expert, then what the hell is, right? And so, why do you think people listen to you, right? he's just a humble guy, but he's very curious. He's very focused on helping as many people as he can. He's authentic. I mean, he's a great friend and a human being, and I'm just proud of him as an ambassador who's in this space, kind of again helping shift the paradigm.
Yeah. Yeah, shout out to him and Will for the Men Talking Mindfulness podcast. So great stuff.
Great platform. Check it out for sure.
Yeah. Last name on the list, certainly not least, is Scott Swanson.
Scott Swanson, Satan. Holy cow. How do you know Scott?
I don't. I do research, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously you heard the story from Jason too. Yeah.
Yeah. So is it? Yeah. So did they name an exercise after you?
Oh yeah. The up downs. Yeah. Absolutely. They're Reece ups. Absolutely. Yeah. Reece ups. Yeah. Like because before burpees were cool, they were called Reece ups. Just throwing that out there. Which, by the way, I don't know if you knew that. This is a fun fact. I did my research too. Do you know Burpee was actually a sailor? He was actually, yeah. Did you know that? There was a guy named Burpee who came up with the exercise. He was jacked, like back in the day, and they named him Burpee. Like he was actually a service member. He did the exercise, right? So, yeah. But then I'm Burpee 2.0, man. So I did, but no, Satan. You know how important strength coaches are and the culture keepers in the program. And Scott Swanson, shout out to Satan. That's his name was Satan because he just brought hell every single time. We went through some legendary workouts in my 4 years at West Point. There was a year where he left to go to Stanford and then came back. And yeah, he just really taught me about, again, hard work and recovery and about human performance. But he also held us accountable to the standard. And I appreciate him from that. He lost his wife, who was the basketball coach, and now his son, Thor. His name's Thor. So when I went back and taught, his son was named Thor and my son's name's Lars. And so I would joke around. They were like the Hans and Franz. They're the same age. So I would take him to the sidelines and I'd see Scott and Thor to be there. And I'm like, look, it's Thor and Lars, the two Norse gods, right? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, actually Thor is back there and he plays Army lacrosse. He's like 6'6" or something like that. Just a beast. And yeah, he's carrying on his mom's legacy. And so yeah, shout out to the Swanson family, man. Satan's just a longtime friend, an Army football legend, really.
Yeah. I forgot to add this in your bio, but legend has it you skipped another way in.
I'm gonna go do up downs right now. I'm doing some reseps right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I got the resilient. I think I took note of that somewhere. I had it in my notes.
Called me when I was helping develop the Army's resilience program, the University of Pennsylvania. Members of the UPenn resilience program are civilian professors, and obviously resilience was the thing. And then they called me, hey, Captain Resilient. So that was my name. And so when I learned about resilience, that was my kind of moniker. Was about, I said resilience is one level above resilient because, hey, you can't be a captain. You got to be you got to represent like this persona, if you're Captain Resilient.
No, that's awesome.
Because I'm a victim of my own circumstances and my poor choices. So.
That's awesome. Just a few more questions, just as we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
If I put you in a room, sorry. I like doing these type of games. If I put you in a room with Billy Madison and Pete Rose, who are you taking advice from on mental toughness? I know. Who are you taking advice from on mental toughness?
Holy shit. I mean, Charlie Hustle's the king, man, right? Pete Rose. And you obviously know my love for Pete Rose. My first speech ever was on Pete Rose. You knew that? I don't know if you knew that. Yeah.
No, but I knew you liked him because when you did that Zoom call, you were wearing a Pete Rose jersey. So here's like a podcast. Right now, I see. Here's a good example. So I always look in their background when they do virtual calls, right?
Yeah.
For sports memorabilia, like I see, you got football. Rick Prado was on my podcast, a couple months ago, and he's someone who's done a ton of podcasts. I try to take different approaches, right? So not hear the same regurgitated stories, or if it is about the same subjects, like how can I put a different spin on it, right? So, but he had 3 baseballs lined up in sequence, and I was like, hey, who are those baseballs signed by? Because I was like, they're going to be signed by someone. And then he went into the story about all these baseball players he met in the 60s.
Yeah,
that would go. He lived in Miami, so all the teams that would go to spring training, like Yogi Berra, and the legends of the time, right? So. Anyway,
so Pete Rose definitely on the grit and like the traditional thing of toughness, hard work, consistency. But it would be Billy Madison. Well, I'll say Adam Sandler. I just watched. Have you seen Happy Gilmore 2? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
freaking amazing. Like, I just
Yeah.
like it's so
Nostalgia. A lot of
nostalgic because they
yeah.
went back to the. And I love all his movies, even though some of them are like have flopped. I love it because he doesn't give a shit, man. He's authentic to himself. He wears out there if he wants. He brings his nepotism up the yin yang. Brings his wife and girls on there. His best friends are in every movie.
Love
Like
it.
he just and then and he's like, I'm gonna make another 50 movies, and I don't really care if anybody goes and watches them or not, right? And so yeah, I just for him his belief and trust in himself, his authenticity, that I go to him with that one.
No, that's great. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Pete Rose too, and it's
Yeah, he should be in the Hall of Fame, by the way. I'm just saying. I'm throwing
I
that out
agree.
there.
I mean, I agree.
I mean, the guy's dead. Let's get him in, man. Come
I
on.
know. Uh, so obviously from Oklahoma, and I was a huge baseball fan growing up. The strike in '94 really killed it for me.
Yeah, not
Mickey Mantle and Johnny Bench are both from Oklahoma.
right. Yeah.
Mickey Mantle's last season was Johnny Bench's rookie season.
Okay.
So I forget if there was Heritage baseball card packs where do you collect those by chance?
I did. I was big into baseball cards. I go to shows. Like, I mean, this is at the height. Remember the height in the late 80s when it was at its peak.
So a couple years ago, they started doing like Heritage packs where, it'd come out with present, like this is like, I think in 2017.
Yeah.
So they would, or whatever year it was, they would come out with a pack of 10 cards and it'd be players from like that season, the current season, and there'd be 1 to 2 players from the season 50 years before that. So I would always buy the Heritage packs. I think it was 1967 Heritage packs.
Yeah, right.
To try to get the Johnny Bench and Mickey Mantle, but those are 2 other players that I'm
amazing players. Yeah, that I love forget who's the affiliate now up in Oklahoma City where they got the Johnny Bench statue up there too. I did get a chance to meet him. I did get a chance to meet some Reds legend. Like I got to know Eric the Red Davis.
Underrated, man. If you go back and look at his 3 his stats from like 87 to 90.
Yeah.
I mean, people talk about Bo Jackson. I mean, like people don't realize how dominant.
I did, and he and I shared. We were at a locker because he didn't say he's a coach, he's a teacher. We had an interesting. My first discussion with Eric is the difference between coaching and teaching. That was really cool. But I spent my first spring training hanging out with him. I got a chance to interview him about confidence, and which like the sound, like I was doing it for the players, and the sound was really bad. It was in a batting cage. I got to get that cleaned up because it's gold. Like, and I just learned so much from him. Barry Larkin, got a chance to meet him as well, who was like, I played second base growing up.
I did too. I played second.
Yeah. My favorite second basemen were Barry Larkin.
He played short. Yeah. Can I guess your second baseman then?
Who
was it? A Reds player or no?
Nope.
No.
He just passed away last year.
Huh?
He passed away last year. I got his jersey too.
Is it Ryan Sandberg?
You nailed it, man. Rhino, man. Rhino was my favorite. He's my favorite. I was a Giants fan growing up, but I loved Andre Dawson and Ryan Sandberg. I mean, we didn't have YouTube back then, but I loved his game. Of course, he was the MVP with 1984. Just a legend, man. And when I was obviously in Chicago and being a Chicago sports fan, I had to pick up his the old school jersey that has no name on it, but it's 34. And I wore 34 in college because of Walter Payton and because of Ryan Sandberg.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I played second base growing up, and I was a huge Dodger fan growing up.
Ooh.
I know, right, John? Yeah.
Ooh.
It might have been.
You can't hate. I mean, that's just excellence right there, man. Sustained excellence, and they're probably going to three-peat. By the way, I hate to say it.
That's because they're buying World Series, but that's a whole different subject. But
they got an amazing development program, man. I mean, they're just like, they're world-class, dude. Let's face it.
I wore number 10 growing up because not that he was like this legendary second baseman, but they used to have Juan Samuel who played second base for the Dodgers in the early 90s. And so that's the reason why I wore number 10 was because of him. A little random player shout out.
Yeah.
Last 2 questions. So since episode 100, which I published back in November, my wife was actually my guest. I started a tradition where I want to pass the torch between episode and guest. Okay. So what's a quote or a question I can use in a future episode with a guest to be determined?
Ooh. What is any question that you can ask to a guest that's yet to be determined? Hmm. That's a good question. Give me some ideas. Give me
It
some
could be
ideas.
anything, or even a quote. If there's a famous quote that you love, because I like to open up each episode with a quote as well.
Oh man, this is one of my favorite quotes. Nelson Mandela quote: "I either win or I learn. I never lose."
I've never heard that one. That's good.
Amazing, amazing quote. Like it's this whole idea of neutral thinking. So it's like, hey, when something bad happens to me, it's not about being positive. It's not about being negative. It's about being productive. And this idea of neutral thinking is, again, how do I accept what happened? How do I separate from it? And then how do I move on to the next most productive thought and action? I'd be kind of curious to, hey, what is what does that look like for you? How do you learn from everything, regardless of the results? What's your process? And really get into the systems aspect of it too, right? Get into the tactical, the gritty stuff too.
Yeah.
Did you figure that on your own? Did you learn it from somebody? That type of thing. Like, how do you get the neutral? Like, cause in my world, and the more specific thing is like, everybody talks about being not too high and not too low. It's like being somewhere in between. Well, being neutral, how you think and act that's what it is. Staying neutral. And it's not just when bad things happen. It's when, hey, you're on a winning streak. Like I have to remind myself, because I've been on heaters before and I'm riding the wave and I'm just like crushing it. And and I get I want to enjoy it, but I know that I have to be careful because I don't want to get complacent, right? I don't want to get
Yeah.
cocky. I don't want to lose my edge, right? So I think getting to neutral is, that's the ultimate neutral quote in my mind. And that Nelson Mandela one. Yeah.
If there was a giant billboard with your picture on it for the world to see, and it could be anywhere in the world, what would you want your message to say, and where would you want your billboard to be?
Um, First of all, it wouldn't be about me. It would be about the work, man. That's the thing and we see it on social media, and a lot of people who are out there don't intentionally, they make it about them. And for me, I want to make it about the people that I serve and about the mission, man. So I think it would be going back to that quote that you had, right? The measure of a life is in its service to others, man. And I would love to have, for me, um, it would be a mosaic. It would be a mosaic. This is what it would be. There's this, there's this, in the Bears facility at Hollis Hall, there's this really cool, um, mural, and it's the pictures of all the people who have been in the organization up to the point where they made the mural. And those pictures created the image of the grizzly bear. So I would want that. It would be the pictures of all the people that I've interacted with in my life and served in some capacity. My soldiers, leaders I've worked with, people I've had like a connection or relationship with, and it would just would be, and it would spell out the word serve. That's what it would be. Yeah, serve for me. That's my kind of what my philosophy is. It's show up. It's show empathy, respect. Add value, and then evaluate progress. Man, that's what it's all about. So all the people that I've served, and then it would spell the word serve. That's what it'd be about. It would not be any pictures of me or anything like that. That's what it's all about, man. You don't have to wear a uniform to serve, man. And that's what this next chapter of my life is all about.
That's brilliant. Man, that is such an incredible and phenomenal answer. Man, hey, if people want to learn more about you, where would you like them to go?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I mean, hey, I'm a keynote speaker. That's the front end of everything. I create awareness and understanding about mental fitness and leadership and how to make cultures of excellence through systems. So my keynote is Rise Up, Fight to Win the War from Within. So go to my speaker website, andyreece.com. I've got my speaker kit. If you want to hire me for your next event, virtual, in person, whatever it is, love to be able to do that. If you want to sample, check out my TED Talk. It's on YouTube. Just type in Andy Reece TEDx. That's on there as well too. Also, obviously, check out my podcast. This new podcast. I'm the Timu of Torch Martin here, trying to be like you, man. I'm the Dollar General version, but like, hey, trying to go from 99 cents to $1.99, and but eventually I'll get on your level. But yeah, check out School Sessions. It's a mental fitness and leadership podcast. We're publishing an episode every week. Started it last year with my buddy Nate Last. I'm now going solo. He's focusing on his business and his family. Shout out to Nate and my producer Angie for doing that, along with my nephew Luke, who does all my social media stuff. I want to, so we're a team. So School Sessions, check that out as well too. A lot of great conversations on the topic. Yeah, and then if you're interested in any of my other coaching or workshops, you can check out my company's Design to Perform. I'm my kung fu is the strongest on LinkedIn, not quite on John's level since he's like the ultimate like he basically got rid of the whole top voice thing because he's the top voice every year. So that's why they got rid of it. There's nobody that's above him. He broke the algorithm. So I only have a measly 2 people that follow me, you and my dad. Thanks for following me, Torch.
And the Stafford, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, but check me out there too, LinkedIn, Instagram. And that's the best way to find me and hit me up too. I'd love to serve and support you guys to learn about the art and science of kicking ass between the ears in the arena, man.
Love it. I'm gonna link all your stuff. I created it last night. My show notes for this. I had
Cool.
like 4 or 5 things. I had your website, your LinkedIn, I think Instagram, your podcast. I had to link. Oh, and I think maybe YouTube or something.
Yep. The TEDx talks easy to find out there too.
Yeah. Last question. What can I do for you? How can I best serve you?
Oh man, I think you already did, man. I think that's what's cool about showing up with others is sometimes just getting to know someone and making a connection with someone who's on a similar mission and path that you already are, and to learn from them and have a great conversation. And it's just kind of like multiplicative effect, man. I think I'm just honored to get to know you. I can already tell we're gonna be friends and colleagues, and hopefully we can follow up on how we can refer to people to each other and to continue to grow our ability to serve, man. That's what it's all about and pass the torch. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversations continuing.